With all of the talk around Sonny Dykes' job security, Sarah and I break down just how hot that seat is. Oh yeah, it's Locked On Horned Frogs. Play my music.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Horned Frogs podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything TCU athletics. Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey is over. It just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S, but I am not alone. We have Sarah Smith of KCEN. You can follow her on her social all on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram at Sarah Smith Sports. Go ahead and follow her there. How you doing, Sarah?
I'm good. I can't wait to get into some of these hot topics. Our opening segment today is actually one of my favorite things to talk about. So I'm super excited to dive in here.
Well, the operative word there is hot. We're talking about Sonny Dykes. We're going to close out today's episode, of course, with our normal two segments, the biggest winners and losers of the Big 12 week on Saturday, as well as Sarah's stat of the week. But we kick this whole thing off with Sonny Dykes' hot seat. Everybody wants to talk about whether or not Sonny Dykes should or shouldn't be fired. Is it time to let him go? Is it time to move on and go in a different direction? Is he the guy to lead this program? Now, one thing that Sarah and I are going to talk about is just how hot that seat is, and we're going to break it down in terms of wings. So here goes the criteria and the flavors, and we would love if you were to add your 2 cents in the comments or on social media. You have barbecue, which is not hot at all. Buffalo, kind of hot. Mango habanero, pretty hot. And then you have Carolina Reaper, scorching hot. Now, I want to have two forms of this conversation, Sarah. I want to start off with how hot his seat should be, and then we'll move into how hot we think his seat actually is. So I'll start off with how hot do you think Sonny Dykes' seat should be in terms of wing flavors?
Honestly, I should have written those down because I already forgot the specific flavors.
I got you. I'll run it back one more time. So you got you got barbecue. Not hot at all. Not hot at all. No heat applied. He's super comfortable, right? Like he is extremely comfortable going out of this year. Buffalo, kind of hot. You know, it's heating up. He's probably okay, but he may be coaching for his job next year. Mango habanero, there's a chance that he may get fired at the end of the year. Carolina Reaper, I would say we may be talking about not even making it through the season. That's how hot the seat is. So those are it. Barbecue, Buffalo, Mango habanero, Carolina Reaper.
At this point in time, I would have to say somewhere like a 2.5 between Buffalo and Mango habanero. And this topic is particularly interesting because it always happens around this point of the season ever since 2022 happened. Obviously, Dykes was a part of that insane run to the national championship, but people can also argue, that wasn't really his team. He did inherit that from Gary Patterson. So do what you will with that information. We still made it, whatever. But whenever we get to this point in the season where mistakes are very clearly made and there's 2 to 3 games back to back where it's the same story, this question always gets thrown in. But I also feel like right after people start talking about this, things change because we saw that last season when we were looking like another 5-7 season, but then TCU actually pulled it out to 8-4. So I don't know. That's why I'm a little bit in between Buffalo and Mango habanero right now. What do you think?
I'll say this. I was on Buffalo. That's where I was at. However, what you said and your points that you were giving, I'm now kind of at Mango habanero, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm probably right in the middle with you, but I'm going to lean towards the Mango habanero because how many times can you keep doing this? How many times can you keep having these slow starts and then building up to something? Because at the end of the day, We have to have a conversation about what is the standard. And we talked about this on yesterday's episode of what is the standard for TCU. And TCU, by Sonny Dykes' own comments, are disappointing this year because he said if you have a season similar to last year, if TCU had a similar season as last year where they had 9 wins and they're not competing for a Big 12 championship or a college football playoff berth, that this would be a disappointing season. So that would set up, in my opinion, that's where they are. In my opinion, that is where they are. With 2 losses, it's over for you. You had a championship berth, year 1, year 2, complete disappointment. No question that's a failure. Year 3 is a bounce back year. So that's another positive. And now you're going into year 4 with a letdown season. I would say you have a great answer of 2.5. But if we're going to enforce what the standard is and we're going to enforce where the team is trying to go to, I think is going to be Mango Habanero. The chances of him getting fired at the end of the season feel relatively slim to me, but not completely impossible, especially when we see how these next 6 games kind of play out. You got Baylor, you got Iowa State, you got BYU, you got Cincinnati, you got Houston. Like, this is not an easy stretch. I don't know if I can completely have confidence that a bounce back like 2024 is going to happen in 2025.
Yeah, and this upcoming Baylor game is going to be really telling on how the rest of the season is going to go. Mm-hmm. This is the biggest game, arguably, in both of these school schedules. And we have seen both offenses be really powerful and lacking defenses. So if TCU really wants to, lock in on everything that they have claimed they've been working on, this is the game to do it. Mm-hmm. I will lock in Mango Habanero if TCU loses to Baylor.
Okay. So right now we're teetering 2.5. Now, does that mean if they beat Baylor that you're going to drop down to Buffalo, or no? It's just if they lose, we increase the temperature. If they win, everything stays the same.
No, I think if they beat Baylor, it depends. It depends on what the win looks like. I know we kind of talked about this last week, is a win a win, but sometimes it really can't feel like a win. But I think it depends on what this win looks like if they do.
Yeah, if they blow them out, all right, calm down.
Yeah, if they just lock in, dominate, perform like they did against UNC, yeah, I'm secured on that Buffalo. But if they win and it's kind of shaky, then I'll remain where I'm at on the 2.5.
No, like I said, I think that's good. So we've had a conversation of where we think he should be. Now we're going to try to get mentally into the headspace of the decision makers. How hot do you think that he is on the hot seat, though?
Mike Buddy, I had the pleasure of speaking with him when he was the new athletic director last spring. And this is a guy that, he's going to stand on business, and he comes into TCU. This is a new program. He wants to bring his people in. And we already saw the old TCU football communications director was actually let go. And so we've already kind of started to see the Buddy changes. If Sonny Dykes is not meeting whatever bar Mike Buddy deems, I think he has a very high chance to be out of here by the end of the season. So where he should be, I'm kind of locking in Carolina Reaper.
Woo!
I'm kind of locking it in.
Okay.
You're walking into a new place. You want to make a statement as a new athletic director and be like, I'm here, I'm new, and I'm here to change TCU athletics and TCU football for the better. We're not doing it with you, so we're going to move on. That's just the way the business goes. And Mike Buddy is a businessman, so that's me being real. That's me being real.
Yeah, no, that's what the Carolina Reaper. I didn't think we was gonna get a Reaper today. I'll be honest with you. I didn't think we was gonna get a Reaper, but it's okay. The Merchant of Death is here, and his name is Mike Buddy. Sonny Dykes better be on the lookout, because I'm gonna take it probably one step down. I'm a little bit more unsure than you. I think that I'm on the fence. With me, Carolina Reaper, I would use it if I was feeling definite. I'm like you. If they lose to Baylor, especially if they lose bad to Baylor, this is a home game. If I'm not mistaken, this is homecoming, right? I'm pretty sure it's homecoming as well.
Yeah, this is a very big game in Amon G. Carter Stadium. And mind you, I had a post on Twitter go viral last season because during halftime, during when TCU played Tech, the student section was empty, and it remained empty even though TCU came back to win. So I also think that's a factor also. Like,
that's rough.
you know, that environment, like not having that support there can really affect you as a team. So that's also something to kind of look out for in this game. That just fuels the importance of this upcoming game for TCU.
We talking about spice levels, and Sarah, you came in with the spicy take. Carolina Reaper, if Sonny Dykes doesn't get right, we think it's a very good chance. And I'll say this, there is no loyalty of that 2022 season. That doesn't exist anymore because you have a new athletic director that was hired in 2025. And then also you have the idea of whether or not this was done with Gary Patterson's guys. And some can say that's unfair. Some could say that is actually completely true. I think there's people on both sides of the spectrum when it comes to that point. Did Dykes do it with Patterson's guys? Regardless of how you feel, that is a stigma that is placed on coaches who have their highest level of success in year one, especially when they follow a successful head coach. So Patterson was a successful coach. Then Dykes comes in and he wins or is very successful the year after. It's just going to look like you didn't have your recruiting guys in yet. You didn't have the players that fit your mold. Once we got the players that fit your mold, look at what TCU does. They lose road games to Kansas State, who you feel like you're better than. They drop games to Houston in last year's season. These are things that people are going to start paying attention to. And everything is a what have you done for me lately type of league, conference, sport, job, whatever. It's what have you done for me lately, especially when the athletic director is only evaluating the one season he's been present for. But let's move forward. Sarah's stat of the week. I'll tell you what, you keep dropping takes like that, your hot seat is going to be on barbecue. You're good in my book if you keep dropping takes like that. So we're going to move forward and look at your stat of the week, something that is kind of been a recurring issue for the Horned Frogs as we continue with Locked On Horned Frogs. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. That's why Mazda crafts cars for those who want to do more than simply move. You don't have to worry about only getting from point A to point B, though Mazda is always going to keep you equipped to do that. If you want to have a little bit of fun as you get from A to B, Mazda is the car for you. From footwork to breath work, athletes tend to sweat all the details. That's how you become great. That's how you become one of the best. Mazda took that same inspiration and having that same intention to how they craft every model. So they are one of the best. They are one of the elites. You can feel it with the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Nappa leather upholstery. Stop making everyday drives simple. Make everyday drives feel like anything but. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Today's episode is also brought to you by Peloton, and Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance in endless ways to move. Whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors, however you decide to get active, this is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performances, which means you don't have to do it all by yourself. Get advice, get assistance to make sure that you are having the best training possible. I love how Peloton IQ offers real-time strength coaching. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Plus today at onepeloton.com. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On Horned Frogs, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day. Every day for your second listen, make sure you're checking out the Locked On Big 12 show and the Locked On Big 12 squad show. Actually going to hop on that right after we talk here. But one thing we are here to talk about is Sarah's stat of the week. The biggest stat, it may be two, depending on how we feel and how we're flowing. The biggest stat to come out of the matchup versus Kansas State between TCU. Take the floor.
I came prepared with two, so we do have some time. I definitely like to harp on the second one, but before I reveal my stat of the week, I would like to provide some context. In our last segment, you made a great point about how TCU was the better team against Kansas State, and we lost. Let's backtrack to last week when I said Deion Sanders thought Colorado was the better team, and they lost. Colorado had 3 turnovers. TCU had 3 turnovers against Kansas State. I'm seeing some parallels here. I'm definitely seeing some parallels here. Just off the rip, what are you thinking after I dropped that?
Okay, now my thought is the same thing we said. I think the response last week was when you have 3 turnovers, you are never going to be the better team.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I said to you yesterday or last week when talking about Sanders' comments. Now we fast forward. TCU may have been more talented, but when you have 3 turnovers, you are never the better team, especially when I think they can't say have any turnovers on that day. Maybe one.
Nope.
None. See,
no.
You lose when you lose a turnover battle 3-0, you are not the better team. Maybe more talented, but you are not the better team.
Yeah, Kansas State's their performance just entirely shows what you can do when all aspects of your team are dialed in. You know, they came into this game after a loss to Baylor and, unsure. And they came in, TCU went to Manhattan expecting to win, but Kansas State absolutely stood on business and kind of exposed us in a way. We objectively saw that you cannot operate a good offense when you are just relying on the pass game. And I place maybe 80% of the blame on Josh Hoover. Yeah, some of his looks were bad, which ended up in interceptions. I believe there was a fumble as well. But your run game isn't going. And so your only other option to move the ball downfield is passing. You're not going to be successful. I know this is a very recurring theme in TCU's offense, and it has been getting more and more exposed since week 2 on.
Yeah, no, I agree. And one thing that is terrible is even if you felt like the run offense was starting to pick up a little bit of steam, then you get down 21 points. So even if you wanted to run the football, you're now in a spot where you have to keep passing. You have to keep throwing. And I know that's not directly related to your turnover point, so I'll leave it alone there. But it's just interesting where you're putting all this pressure on Josh Hoover. And I think they should have ran the ball a little bit more earlier in the game because you're right. You don't want to put it all on the arm of Hoover. It's not a way to be a great team. And I don't know if they can succeed that way.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And, I think kind of what you said, I think it actually does relate. Like being forced to pass does relate to turnovers because when you're in that position, you're forcing things to happen. You're in a one-on-one situation. You see your receiver in a one-on-one situation where you see he's getting beat and you decide to do that anyway. That's probably going to get picked off or it's going to get dropped and you're losing momentum, which is something I would also, here's my second stat. And I think it also ties into the turnover problem. Manjack had 2 to 3 critical dropped passes. It's time to put the gloves on. It's time to put the gloves on. At first, when I thought it was like, okay, maybe he doesn't need him. We saw it. I think everyone has had enough. I genuinely cannot recall the last time I saw a receiver not wear gloves. But when you have these drop passes that are right here in your hands, and you cannot do those are critical things, especially when you're down. That just cannot be happening because when you're having a good drive and you're rolling downfield and you have 2 to 3 dropped passes, your momentum is just done.
Yeah.
And that was very evident in the way TCU's offense played against Kansas State.
Yeah, I felt man, it was tough to see Man Jack do that because he's typically really steady. He's
Yeah.
typically really reliable. Um, yeah, to see that happen was rough. I want to get back to your turnover real quick because there was something I wanted to say that I forgot to say. The relationship with TCU and turnovers this year has been really bad. They've been way too close. Like that, you should never be that closely related, that familiar with turnovers, especially critical ones. And as you go through them, almost every game this year, you've had a turnover that could have took away points or gave the opponent points. Almost every single game. Now against
Yeah.
Abilene Christian, I don't think you turn over the ball with the starting unit. I think you had an interception with the guys who came in after, but we ain't really worried about that, right? Like that, the starters went 6 of 6, so we're gonna address those guys. But against North Carolina, you're in scoring position, interception. Against SMU, you're in scoring position. Eric McAllis has the ball that hits him in the hands in the end zone, and it just somehow slides out and right into the defender's hands. Points off the board. Against Arizona State, you had a turnover inside the 10-yard line. Points off the board. You had an interception you had a fumble that ended up giving Arizona State the game-winning field goal. And on the next possession, you have a interception that ices the game. So you're looking at every single turnover, it feels like, or every single game, you have a turnover or 2 or even 3 that either take points away or give points to the other team. And it all culminated this week, or last week rather, against Kansas State, with a fumble that was returned for a touchdown on a play that just honestly, I think that Small, if I'm not mistaken, that's who it was, just lack of awareness, not thinking about whether or not that ball went backwards. And I don't think anybody really thought about the ball going backwards except for the defender. But that fumble, returned for a touchdown. Interception, return for a touchdown. Not only are you taking points off the board, you're directly handing them points because these were really easy returns once the turnover happened. So great stat. And you talking about Man Jack putting the gloves on. We're going to see what happens as we move forward. I got a little hint. If you look in that right corner at today's lineup, that Sarah's got another comment that feels like she's taking the gloves off. And we're going to look into that as we continue with Locked On Horned Frogs. Today's episode is brought to you by Wayfair. And look, I understand the holidays are here. Matter of fact, they'll be here before you know it. I know you're thinking it's still October. You have time for Halloween, but maybe you want to throw your decor up in a little bit of orange and black. Maybe it's spooky season and that's what you love before you get to transition into Thanksgiving, Christmas. Also, celebrate Thanksgiving, ladies and gentlemen. All right, they have 25 days of Christmas, and if that considers me a Scrooge or that makes me a Grinch, I'm okay with that because shout out to Thanksgiving. But anyway, Wayfair makes it easy to personalize your home for whatever holiday it is. Maybe you want to be Kris Kringle and I want to be whatever Thanksgiving decor I want in my house. Either way, Wayfair allows you to customize the way you want to and me to customize the way I want to. And delivery is fast and free. I don't care who you are. I don't care how much money you make. Everybody loves free delivery. So that's a lifesaver during a busy time of the year. Get organized, refreshed, and ready for the holidays for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's Wayfair. Wayfair, every style, every home. Today's episode is also brought to you by Supply House. And Supply House is the #1 place for anything that you have to do around the crib. Now, I understand everybody isn't necessarily Bob the Builder. Everybody isn't a carpenter. But you know what? That's okay. Because Supply House is going to help you. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow so you can get started immediately. 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items are available from the most trusted brands on or in the business. And their real-time inventory and honest lead times keeps you from punting on projects, whether those industry-leading customer service is what you need, or if you just need to get the parts because you already know what to do. It's all there for you. Join the free Trade Master program today and score some serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use the promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. As we wrap up today's episode of Locked On Horned Frogs, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day, making it all the way to segment 3. And I thank you 2 times for that. No more introduction. Sarah has something to get off her chest. And I want to be very clear, like it says in that corner, these are not my words. All right. I didn't say it. I'm not about to say it, but she will for me.
You know, I feel like people might come out of this episode thinking that I am the Horned Frogs' biggest hater. And I'm not. You know, this is my alma mater here.
Sarah. Let's be very clear. She covers Baylor now. She's in the region with Baylor. I'm just saying there may be a conflict.
That's because, you know,
she's gone. Don't worry, guys. I don't even know why I brought her on the show. I don't know why I did that to y'all. I apologize. We'll remedy that next week because we have Baylor fanfare masked in Texas Christian alum. I should have vetted the source a little bit better. That's on me. But you know what? I'll let you finish.
Hey, I went where the job was. I just graduated from TCU, so I love my Horned Frogs, but obviously I do have to come on here and be unbiased. And I do think pretty much everything that we have talked about already regarding TCU football is why they're my biggest loser. And it's like TCU has a very high ceiling, in my opinion. The talent is there. We have seen what the offense and defense can do when it clicks. We have seen that. It's not like we're still hoping and it's not there. We've seen it. But it's not consistent. It's like one game is good and then the rest are bad. And we are never going to retain that eliteness by playing this way. Against Kansas State, so many momentum killers. You know, those 2 returns for touchdowns, probably it was just a stab in the heart and twist in the knife. You know, it's so hard to rally back from that, especially when you are away, when you are playing in Manhattan in that environment. It's really, really difficult. And the 2 interceptions and the dropped passes, the run game, a little bit, but still not there. And Kansas State, just like I said before, they just stood on business. They dominated from start to finish. That is what a phenomenal team looks like when everything clicks. When everything clicks, they had 0 turnovers. Everything was great. Their defense was great. Their offense was great. I might as well have graduated from Kansas State the way I'm hyping them up right now. So
you could have kept.
That's why this week TCU is my biggest loser. The Horned Frogs have the opportunity this week to prove me wrong and labeling them as my loser this week.
Well, I'll say what I asked TCU to prove it on Saturday, and they didn't. So hopefully they respond to you a little bit better than they responded to me. I'll keep it brief on TCU. Why I agree. They're one of the biggest losers. They won't be mine this week. I have another team to highlight, but they were definitely one of the ones I considered because to me, 2 losses really does you in when you're talking about Big 12 competition. And that's the reason I think that Sonny Dykes gave us what the criteria was for a disappointing season. And the fact that I don't think that 2 losses in Big 12 play is going to be good enough to have you fighting for a Big 12 championship spot, that is enough for me to say it's a disappointing season. And once you start making proclamations like that, you're kind of in biggest loser territory. The biggest loser that I will go with this week, let's see, I had a few on my brain. I'm gonna go Arizona State, and I'm gonna keep it brief for the Sun Devils. They're the biggest losers because Sam Levitt was out, and to lose a game in a conference that every game truly does matter. Every game matters not only for how you fare in conference championship conversations, but also in college football playoff conversations. And they already lost to Mississippi State. And unfortunately, I don't think many people are going to give Arizona State the benefit of the doubt to say that they lost to a team like Utah without their starting quarterback. I just don't think people are going to say, what's the context around this big loss? It's just going to be that they lost big. And the fact that people aren't going to give them that benefit of the doubt, they're not a Bama, they're not a Georgia, they're not like this premier team that we see every year. That really is tragic for them. One loss doesn't kill them. They're still fine as far as Big 12 conversation goes, but the ice just got thinner. The ice got much thinner when you lost your first game because everybody knows how I feel about 2 losses in this conference.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say Arizona State because I actually picked Utah as my biggest winner.
Okay, talk to me.
I picked them as my biggest winner. Utah just had, a loss against Texas Tech. That was a ranked opponent, and they needed to find some momentum to rebound. And they absolutely 100% did that. Having a backup quarterback is no excuse to lose games. Take a look at the 49ers with Mac Jones.
Okay.
That's all I'll say about that.
Point taken.
Everything Utah did was phenomenal. 276 rushing yards, over 100 receiving yards. Their defense was also locked in with 5 sacks. Mm-hmm. That is just an outright domination and a great way to bounce back from a ranked loss to a backup quarterback. Texas Tech had their backup quarterback playing when Utah lost to them as well. So for Utah to have such a big win over Arizona State, which is a phenomenal football team, former Big 12 championship.
Mm-hmm.
And they got it done. And I think this is going to give the Utes a lot of momentum to finish out the season really, really high. So I was super impressed with them this week.
Okay, I can take that. Utah, to me, they needed that bounce back. And they were at a point where I think that they could have really fell out of favor on the national level had they lost this game. So I think that and I'll try to stop harping on the whole 1 loss versus 2 loss just so it doesn't get repetitive. But you lose that game, you're at 2 losses now. Like, it's a different conversation that we have. But okay, my biggest winner is Colorado. And for me, Colorado has yet to close out this year. They've been in games, they've been close in games, they've been in the fourth quarter with teams that you don't feel like they should, such as BYU, such as TCU, such as Georgia Tech. They've been in games with teams in the fourth quarter, and every single week that opponent either pulls away or they make a comeback, but Colorado ends up on the losing side of that argument until this week. They went in and knocked out Iowa State. A lot of times when I'm thinking about biggest winners and losers, they tend to come from the same game, and I just pick which one I feel more passionately about. And I felt more passionate about Colorado's win over Iowa State as opposed to Iowa State's loss to Colorado. And that's simply because the Buffs finally did something that they've been trying to do all year, something they haven't been able to do since beating TCU in 2023, beat a top 25 team. They ain't done that in over 2 years at this point. You've finally done something you've been trying to do all season, and that's close out a game in the fourth quarter. They actually extended their lead in the fourth quarter. They forced a turnover to keep Iowa State from scoring points in the fourth quarter. And then they had 2 real clutch defensive possessions and scored a field goal. So I'm going to give some credit to the Buffs because for the first time in all season, they've actually closed out a game. Instead of being close with no cigar, instead, they've been able to get the victory cigar, light it up, go into the locker room, have it enjoying a joyous moment. And I think they deserve to be the biggest winner for that. A little bit of a feel-good story, but also real football X's and O's involved in it too. Yeah,
maybe Deion Sanders isn't as big of a fraud as me and the media love to preach.
I don't know, man. But look, I'll tell you what. Sarah Smith, no fraud. All right, we're going to have her back here on next Wednesday. I know, but they won't be playing Baylor next week, so you won't have to worry about her slandering your school. But it's okay. Actually, thank you. Maybe it'll get some of the – they can't say anything about me today. I'll tell you that right now. They can't say anything about –
I'm here to bring the hot topics. I'm here to bring the controversy. Yes. I'm here to get the comments rolling. If they disagree with me, if they agree with me, I'm here for it. I love bringing the crazy takes to the show.
Nah, I love it. And for those who are all the way here, segment 3, don't forget to comment how hot that you think Sonny Dykes' seat is. Buffalo, mango habanero, Carolina Reaper, oh, we just being too much and it's really barbecue. It ain't nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's real mild. You can feed that to a baby. But anyway, tomorrow we'll have another guest. We'll have Cam from Locked On Baylor on the show. So we're doing a crossover. You're going to hear all about the enemy. And then on Friday, we'll finally do our recap. So we're going to have a really fun lineup of shows heading into the biggest rivalry game of TCU season. That's Sonny Dykes' comments. But I'll give my comments tomorrow. In the meantime, in between time, until next time we hear each other, family, take care, stay blessed. Peace.